Hello, and welcome to another episode of Marketing Mode. I'm Jenna,
I'm Todd.
and today we're going to tell you about some elements that should go into the design and content of your research report. So here we go. Hey Todd, how you doing?
I'm doing well. It's been a great day. We're actually recording this on a Friday, so it's nice to think about the weekend coming up.
Yeah, and when we record on Fridays, it's a little more energetic, I think, because we
That's
know
right.
there's there's
Optimistic.
a light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, so today we're talking about the content and design of a mostly design of your research report because when someone's reading a research report, you might not think so much about the design because it is research, and we'll actually get to that kind of element a little bit later on, but it is important to there are different elements that go into it that are super important to how the reader perceives the content, right?
No, that's true. And it's funny when Jenna, you do such a great job of visualizing what these reports should look like that Ascend 2 does. And I know a lot of times, oh, you're welcome. A lot of times when I talk to clients and they said, oh, wow, these look great. And of course, we know what great looks like. But I think in this episode, we're kind of going to break down like all the nuances that make something look great, right? So
Right.
you know what you like, but I'm always surprised at all the little details that it takes to make that happen.
Yeah, and so I guess we'll start with overall, you're looking at the research report, and something that we go over with our clients is how do you want to position your brand? Because there are options there, right? You don't have to brand it completely to to the brand that's producing it or that's sponsoring it, and it's really just how do you want to present yourself as the participant in this research and data collection, right? So like some people, most of the people that we work with want to put their brand forward. They want to use their brand colors. They want to use their logo that they're sponsoring it. It's a piece of thought leadership. But some people want to use us, the third party, and kind of put that forward, maybe to like improve credibility or more to create more of an indirect line to finding their brand and to kind of maybe placing things throughout the report that lead to them indirectly. Um, so yeah, we'll talk about a little bit about how to do that, right? So like, um, you know, creating uh so when you're putting your brand forward, right? You want to include some CTAs, maybe some calls to action, some links that go directly to your logo, to your website, to we want to relate this research back to you.
Right. A lot of times when I talk to clients initially, I talk about like, how would you like to leverage the Ascend 2 brand?
Mm,
And what I mean by that would be, if you're like a young company and you're trying to build your brand, maybe it's not, still as recognized in the industry, you might want to highlight the Ascend 2 brand a little bit more on your research study to, get yourself in for like, for example, media coverage and just add a little bit more credibility as your brand grows. Maybe you're highlighting your brand more and you're using the Ascend 2 brand, for example, to help validate and add credibility. But
mm.
it's like just kind of a discussion you have on, again, I know a lot of times we talk about strategy. A lot of this kind of goes to, what is your strategy, what's your purpose, and then that can be um, enhanced by how you do your design.
That's true. Yeah, and it could just be a small piece of it, right? Having your brand associated with a research partner, a credible research partner like Ascend2, only bolsters, you know, the credibility. So,
Yeah, and
but that leads to kind of the use of tips and buttons and things that you can include in your research report that help identify and connect what the research and data is telling us um, to the services of your brand, right? So, you know, when you use CTAs, we typically we typically stay away from like major, hey, click here, to try to, demo our product kind of thing. But I think because research because of who's reading the research, and it's more of like a, top of funnel. Actually, I mean, it really can be used anywhere, but for the use of top of the funnel, you want to kind of just lead them to your brand, right? Like, here's what we described. Here are the top challenges of what marketers are saying about XYZ. And maybe in a sidebar, it's a little call out that says like 85% of marketers say that creating a strategy is a challenge. Um, Click here to find out how we can help with that. Or that's a bad example, but you know what I mean.
No, you're right. And, you can, we always hear people say, like, we don't want to make it too salesy, right? We don't want
Right.
to have these just like blatant call outs to, because typically this is an educational piece, right? It's
Hmm.
somebody's going, they want to find out the data, they want to find out like, what's going on here. And so they're not ready to schedule an appointment, but they might be ready, like you said, challenges. If you have a list of top challenges, maybe the tip is, there's a couple of different ways to mitigate the number one challenge. Click here for five steps to mitigate that challenge. And so a lot of times it can
There
be
we go.
just,
That's a good example.
but it can definitely be just a, hey, let's get them over to your website, right? Uh,
Yeah.
maybe they, you know, maybe they got, you think about the journey of the customer. They may have gone to uh, Forbes, like a media company, where they saw this article about this research study. They click on
Hmm.
it. Now they're on the research study. They still haven't been to your website, and uh, now they're reading through it. And you have this call to action of not like, hey, buy, but hey, check out this 5-step process to overcome this challenge. And so now they're over to your website, right? So it's all part of that aspect of getting them more involved in your brand. Um, and every company's different. You'd mentioned that sometimes research can obviously be bottom of the funnel. So we did a research study recently where it was more of a buying uh, you know uh, buying criteria for software. So it was bottom of the funnel, like, what factors do people consider when they're buying the
Mm.
software and things like that. So yeah, something there, maybe, something more direct might be more appropriate because, they're reading that research study to understand how to buy a product. So
Right.
maybe that connective tissue can be more direct. So I think you really just have to look at the research you're doing and, kind of base it on the user. Like, where is that user at in the journey?
Yeah, that's so true. It is such a case by case basis, um, for like, what you want to be doing with the research, and how you want to use it, and where the touch is going to be. Um, and with these tips and call outs and stuff, we've talked about this before, but we try to segment this data so that we can pull out these like interesting, each page has, most of the time it's like a chart or like a list of things and some content. And if we want to make it so that if somebody's skimming, they can just see these like bright boxes and these call outs that are like, again, like 85% of marketers find that creating a strategy is a challenge, whatever. And so like there's at least something that they can take away from it, even if they're just skimming. And that segmentation is a great way to kind of complement that. So we try to add call outs, and we call them call outs. I don't know what other people call them, but little boxes with, bold font that makes them stand out, and skimmable. So lists are great as well. Like creating a new paragraph in the middle of content and indenting it a little bit and making it bold, and here's a list, and bang, 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 bang down the, so people can skim it really. Because not everybody, I would assume few people are reading every word of these reports. We'd like to think that they
I'm going to
are.
pretend I didn't hear that, Jenna.
But you have to design it with that in mind.
Okay.
Um,
I'm in a
so
full state of shock right now that not everybody reads our stuff, but
Todd
Jenna,
doesn't come back to work on Monday.
let me ask you this, Jenna, because you're talking, I think I'd almost categorize what you're saying as functionality of the study or flow, like just
Mhm.
how do you want to where do you want people to look and train their eyes to, and like there's this functionality of it, but then
Mhm.
I think there's this also this element of I guess I would call it maybe the pretty factor, like
Mhm.
like how pretty do you want to have a research study, should it be
Right.
more how do you blend that? And I think you do a masterful job. So how do you blend like that pretty versus making it researchy?
Yeah, it's tough because, you know, it's there's elements of it that you want to, I mean, for us anyway, and we operate in all different verticals and industries, but traditionally we've been, or historically we've been working with marketers. And so when you're talking to marketers, if a marketer is reading this research study, you want it to be pretty, like they appreciate that, they appreciate
Mhm.
design. But you know they are reading a research report. They're there to get facts about their topic of interest. And so it is so important to include um percentages everywhere, to include charts almost on every page. Charts are such a great visual, and not to make the charts too fluffy looking, right? Like we want to present this as data, and I think that when when organizations lean on the side of, I call it fluffy or pretty, um, you can still, it just, I think it reduces the credibility of
Mm,
the research itself at the end of the day. And it clouds it a little bit, like when you get to the end of a really fluffy report, you're kind of like, what did I just read? Like
right.
what did I just gain from that? Except for, some aesthetically pleasing page,
Yeah.
right? Like, so, yeah, I think that it's super important to put the data forward, and you can still make it very pretty.
I like what you said, credibility. You want to keep the credibility, and you also want to keep, make it easy for the reader. I mean, there's the visual easy, but then I think there's this element of, a lot of times they want to know what the question that was asked, right?
Yeah. Yep,
Or,
totally.
or they want to, if they, make it easy for them to um, do a screenshot of it so that they
Hmm.
can post it somewhere. So like you know, having on that chart the credits section so that travels with that important piece of research. And so some of it is also just keeping, not only making it easy to read, but also making it easy to know all the facts that they need to put the picture together.
Yeah, that's actually such a good point, because I mean, and we've talked about before, from the media coverage aspect, it's like if a media outlet is skimming this report and just pulling things from it, it's it's easy to get lost when there's not the evidence right there, right? And then they'll just pass it by.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a science to the design, and research is its own little category, as compared to like a standard white paper. And I think sometimes I would just say, it's like to close us up on this topic would be just uh, that a lot of times don't lose the value of doing a research study by diluting it on how you actually present it in the report.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely more nuanced than you would think.
It is, and we've fallen on our face a few times. So like it's a process of learning all those different things, as you go. And sometimes, I know, uh, you know, we didn't just arrive. You know, and that's why we've been doing this podcast, I think, just to give some of these little tips we've learned over the years so that so you can do your job better.
Yeah, totally. Well, thanks, Todd. I think we can wrap that up.
All right. Get back to our Friday
Yeah,
fun.
have a fantastic weekend.
All
We'll see
right.
you next time, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.